Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nick
I'm Matt.
I'm Ian.
from Top Notch Sports, and today we're going to be discussing the Las Vegas Raiders situation. Josh McDaniels gone. Whole new situation now. Will it be a rebuild? Is it going to be a retool? These are things that we got to figure out. But today we got our Raiders expert on the channel, Raiders.legends on Instagram. Hey, what do you got for us? I'm going to let you take it away first. What are you thinking about this situation right now?
I'm thinking we got off to a rough start because of Josh McDaniels as head coach. I think he was really holding back a roster that could have made the playoffs when you really look at the schedule and the amount of talent. You had Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer, all these pieces, and we just couldn't get it done. So I think Antonio Pierce, as a leader of men, will do a much better job of just rallying the locker room and helping us get some wins to finish off the season. I do think it's pretty shot at this point. There's pretty much no chance to playoffs, but we can still win a few more games and just be feeling a lot better heading into next season with a new head coach.
Yeah. And again, Antonio Pierce is that guy. Like you said, I think he is a leader of men. And Matt, I mean, you're a Giants guy. Antonio Pierce was a linebacker for your Giants team with Eli Manning when he won the Super Bowl in 2008, I believe it was. Matt, here's my thing. Being an outsider looking in, you look at this Raiders team, the roster, right? Because I mean, me and Ian, we're both Raiders fans. What do you think when you look at the roster and the McDaniel situation? I mean, how are you feeling? Do you think this is a roster that can compete with proper coaching, or do you think there's still a few pieces away?
I mean, right now, I think they got the foundation there. I mean, they got, Josh Jacobs. They just drafted that tight end, Michael Mayer. They got Devontae Adams. They got Jacoby Myers. Um, Defensively, Max Crosby. I mean, Max Crosby was basically, when you think of back when Al Davis used to, define a Raider, Max Crosby fits the bill, right? He's aggressive. He gets the job done. He's got that attitude, that swagger. He's just your typical Raider. And I mean, it's not just him. I mean, there's other guys there. They have the pieces, and just you know, it's it's there's no reason why they can't win. Like Ian was saying, there's no reason why they can't win a couple more games, especially
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce. No one knows this. Antonio Pierce was a head coach before.
Yep.
I mean, he was a head coach in high school. He built a Long Beach Poly program back up to where it used to be in the '90s. I mean, there's no reason why he can't do it in the NFL.
Yeah. No, I know. And this is why Matt's great, man. Matt has the football history. There's football knowledge going back to Al Davis, going back to Antonio Pierce's beginning of times, how he was. No, you're right, though. This guy is a guy that, I saw in his press conference right when he was introduced. That's a leader of men. You know what I mean? Already you can tell, like Josh McDaniels, I don't know if he started catching on to that every interview.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand it. And Ian, I was hard on this guy. And yes, I lost. It was the first time in my lifetime. And I've been watching the Raiders for a long time, and we've been bad. And I didn't change teams. I just lost love for this regime that was there. I mean, I saw the Jamarcus Russell era. I was young, but I remember it. I saw, the Carson Palmers, the Jason Campbells. I saw the Terrell Pryors, the Matt McGloins. And then we had this guy called Derek Carr. And again, I'm not even going to talk about Derek Carr in this video because he always gets mentioned. I'm just going to go past him. But Derek Carr did lock it down for us for a while. And then we got this guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, who I wasn't a fan of. And Matt, in college, I've told you from the first minute we got this guy, Mike,
Yeah,
Mike, my
yeah,
cousin, boy, I'm related to him. You got to love the guy, but he gets on my nerves with this Jimmy Garoppolo guy. He's not a winner to me. He won in San Fran. He won in
yeah.
New England, but he's not a winner because of him. He won because of the pieces around him. What do you want to touch on that real fast?
Just like you've heard it from me too. Like Mark Davis was just like I said, Mark Davis was just trying to get away from his father, create his own image, and he got sold on the Patriot way, which is why he brought in McDaniels, which is why he brought in David Ziegler, who's another guy that got fired. Um, I mean, they have that. I guarantee you, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another push like they had 2 years ago when their interim head coach, Rich
Rick
Bisaccia.
Bisaccia.
Yes, he had them going. I mean, again, the pieces are there. You traded a lot for this, number one wide receiver, and you're not using him the right way. You have Josh Jacobs that you should be pounding the rock, but you don't have the offensive line to do that. Just like up in New England, like they don't have that number, the top guys on their offensive line to be able to do that. All about that, look for the fade, check down to that, dump pass, and hopefully hope to get yards. It's the second time that McDaniels, right? Think about when he was in Denver, tried to do the same exact thing, didn't work. What happened? Got fired not even halfway through his second season as a head coach.
Yeah.
Replay, same thing.
Yeah. No, it was kind of, honestly, it was just like, I mean, think about it again. He went over there in Denver, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but he traded away a quarterback. Does anyone remember who it was? Matt?
Jay Cutler.
And then who did he bring in? Tim Tebow. Got rid of Carr, goes in, brings in Jimmy Garoppolo, gets fired. I mean, it just, I don't know. But anyway, real fast, Dan, I want you to think now too. Interim coach comes in, right? Let's say we scratch out a few wins here. I don't know how many, maybe 2-3 wins with the interim. I don't know. Maybe you get on a run. I just don't know. We got the quarterback situation right now under control. Like we said, we got the roster. Aiden O'Connell's probably going to start the rest of the way. We'll see what happens. My question is this. I'm not saying that you go and intentionally lose these games, but let's say you do win 2-3 games. What's the situation next year now? Do you have to probably trade up into the top 5, draft picks to draft your quarterback? If you want one of those top 2 guys, or do you go and take someone else that's there? Who knows if Sanders is going to be there? We don't know. We don't know who's going to be there. Michael Penix Jr. is another guy that's possible. There's a lot of options, but just looking at it from now, how do you feel like we're going to shake out the rest of the season? And someone like Josh Jacobs, I want to mention this too, because Matt mentioned this, the line didn't really change much from last year. Why isn't the run game going how it's been? Is it because Jacobs, held out for as long as he did? Or is it that we just didn't really make it a big issue this year? Maybe McDaniels went away from it a little bit too early. So what are your 2 thoughts on that? First, our situation for the rest of the year, and then secondly, Josh Jacobs' situation.
I think our situation for the rest of the year it'll look a lot better with the new head coach. I think we finished 9-8, or sorry, 8-9, which a lot of people think is crazy. But if you can even have a half decent head coach in there, I think we're probably 5-2 at this point with the schedule we've had. We've had lost to the Bears, and hopefully we can get some wins against like some of the easier teams like the Giants this week. And with the Josh Jacobs situation, it would be really nice to get him going better than he has. He's still been decent, but I think it's really the wear and tear from, having a 300 touch season last year and then coming back. Everyone wanted him on a long-term deal. He didn't get into camp until late, but I think the main reason is just because of the workload he had on him last year.
Yeah. No, I look, how many running backs after a big year like that, they completely regress? And then again, now the question becomes now, does he get another contract? And is it with the Las Vegas Raiders? So I'm going to let you touch on that too. I mean, what are your, first we'll say what you think is going to happen and what would you do? Because they're 2 totally different things. So what do you think is going to happen and what would you do?
So if they end up keeping Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce as the long-term guys, which I don't think is out of the question, I think we could see Josh Jacobs coming back, but I don't know if they'd be willing to pay him. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be willing to pay him $12 million like he was wanting last offseason, because he's simply not putting up the same numbers and he's not producing the same amount. So I think if we get a new regime, a new head coach, a new general manager again, Josh Jacobs is as good as gone.
Yeah. No, look, it's very possible. I mean, especially too, like there's a lot of options. There are a lot of options out there. Ben Johnson's one. Here's another thing too, and I'll let Matt touch on this. Matt, we were sitting at college. We were having a lunch. You were making yourself a waffle, if I remember correctly.
I was.
I was praying that we were going to see some moves on the trade deadline, but later that night we saw that McDaniels and Zadler both get fired. No moves were made. And I wanted to see Renfro maybe going. I didn't know about Adams, but I want to see them just get a fresh start. Maybe we get some capital back and you move on with it. Here's my question to you. They kept them both now. So to me, again, I mean, especially if you re-sign Jacobs too. I mean, if you are a Ben Johnson, right, the guy, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, the destination doesn't look that bad. Even if you don't have a superstar quarterback, right? Like, all right, everyone says, oh, you have to have a first overall pick, and then like Doug Peterson went there when they had Trevor Lawrence was going to go there, but Ben Johnson's getting in with Jared Goff. I'm not saying Jared Goff's a bad quarterback. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Fame. He's one of those middle tier guys, right? He can play above average. He can be a top 10. He can be a, bottom, around that 17 to 15 range. But he's making it happen. So my question is, Ben Johnson, I don't think is out of the picture right now. Someone like him, maybe you go defensive minded, but when you keep these offensive pieces, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, me as a coach coming in, I'm like, this destination doesn't look that bad. I might not get my top tier quarterback or a generational quarterback, but I can win with maybe a Kirk Cousins or a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Aiden O'Connell, somebody of that matter. So what's your take on that? I mean, do you think ultimately Mark Davis might have stepped in and be like, we're not making any moves, we're going to keep these guys so it still looks like a destination that maybe coaches want to go? Because again, if Adams is gone and everybody and Renfro's gone, who the hell wants to go to Las Vegas?
Right.
At least now there's some pieces there that someone might want to go to. So I'll let you touch on that. What do you think about that decision?
I think you got to look at well, first of all, I don't think Ben Johnson will be the head coach. I think he's going to stay with the Lions unless they win a Super Bowl this year, because I think that he's really likes what they're building. And I get at some point an offensive coordinator spot isn't enough when you have that head coaching job right in front of you. Eric Bieniemy has had that for a lot of years, hasn't been able to quite get it. But he really likes the culture there. Ben Johnson does. And I don't think he's ready to leave yet. Now, on the subject of the attraction to Las Vegas and the Raiders right now for a new head coach and general manager, I think there's a lot of it. You look at this and you look at the Commanders as some of the two best locations for a head coach right now. Ron Rivera is probably going to get fired too. So I think you look at the salary cap. I think you look at the draft picks. I think you look at the draft class we had last year that's got a ton of potential with Tyree Wilson, Michael Mayer, all those guys. And I think you look at the pieces we already have, like you said, Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, in my opinion, and playing the best defensive end in the league right now. And you look at those guys and you say, we can bring back the Raider way with this squad, and we have the pieces to do it, and we have the assets to do it in the future. So all you got to do really is get a quarterback, and I think we're a playoff team pretty quick.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think on that situation?
I mean, I know we've been bringing up the whole offense, Ben Johnson, talk about the offensive pieces, but I think we're all forgetting about what the Raiders were known for back when Ian mentioned the Raider way. What were they known for? Defense. Who's your franchise player right now? Crosby. I mean, Nick, I brought this up, and back in class, Cincinnati's defense, right? Look what their defensive coordinator did to that defense. Why not give him a look? Why not give him a try? He brought that defense to a Super Bowl. I mean, when I think of the Raider way, that guy, the Cincinnati defensive coordinator, pardon for messing up his last name, Lou Arana.
Yeah, I can't say
Ramo or something.
Yeah.
I think he would be the perfect fit for that team. He would be the perfect fit to build Max Crosby as your franchise player, as I think he should be. I think, honestly, right now, when I think of the Raiders, I don't even think Devontae Adams. I think of Max Crosby.
I do too. I'll be honest with you. I love Devontae, but he kind of drives me nuts a little bit. I mean, he just runs his mouth a little bit too much for me. And he tries to do it with class, but he doesn't. He fails every time.
Me and divas. I've said my opinion about divas. I don't like the Devontae Adams, Odell Beckhams. I don't like those guys. I like a guy that talks his way onto the field, and that's what Max Crosby does. I mean, yeah, he gets in trouble from time to time, but he's your. I mean, he was a blessing to that team. The guy, I think, after the third round, Ian, if I'm not mistaken,
that was fourth.
Yeah.
Close enough, yeah.
Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Him, and then you get Renfrow the next pick. I believe it was the 5th round.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he just, man, I still miss that draft class. That was it was shaping us, I feel like. All right, another guy I want to mention too, Jeff Ulbrich. the Jets. I keep on saying it too. He mentioned the defense
Mhm.
for the Bengals. I was like, man, I love that Jeff Ulbrich. I don't think he's gonna leave because I would never forget Hard Knocks this year. I was like, look at this effing quarterback. This is our guy. Like it was Rodgers made this phenomenal across the body throw across the field, and he fit it into an area, and he was like, we're never out of a game with this guy as our quarterback. Never
Mhm.
out of the effing game. And then he pulls and he tears his Achilles. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
he probably wants him there because that defense is playing for him. It's just that they need that, that extra piece. But again, they're winning with Zach Wilson too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think eventually Jeff Ulbricht is going to be a head coach one day, but I think right now him and Robert Salah are building something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like you said, Lou Maruma, or whatever the hell his name is, can't say it right now. I said it the other day, but I can't say it now. What Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson. I mean, if you want to, I mean, he's been able to get production out of his defensive ends now, and I like both of them, but he's been able to get production. Imagine what he could do with Mad Max Crosby. All right. Last thing, Ian, you're saying 8-9. You had them originally before the season at 9-8, so you're not moving much. I had them going 5-12. I thought McDaniels would be there the entire year. I didn't think this would happen. I'm still probably right around that 4 or 5 wins, probably still. I do see your play. It's just tough because you look at their upcoming schedule to get to 8 wins. Like now, again, it's not. I understand what you're saying with the I mean, they do got a competent guy, and this guy's going to get them energized to play. That's what they needed. They don't need the X's and O's. I mean, good players are going to make plays. You just got to get them energized on the sidelines. New York this week, Matt, you're a Giants fan. How are you feeling about that game first? Let me ask you from the other side. I mean,
Honestly, I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to like a 3-point difference, but I think the Raiders can beat the Giants. They again, they just have to stop you have to stop the Martindale pass rush. Same thing the week after. Jets. How we brought up Albright, we talked about that pass rush. I don't know how they're going to handle that or what the offensive line is going to do to counter that. But I mean, they're winnable games. I see them beating the Giants. I don't know about the Jets. But then after that, they got a couple of 2 tough games: Dolphins, Chiefs. Um, I I mean,
tough.
for my say at the end of the day, I could see them being 7-10, 8-9 at the most. But I see them. I see them more as a 7-10 type team.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think Vikings right now currently, look, I mean, there are some winnable games, right? I mean, Ian, if you're sitting there saying, all right, Giants are winnable, Jets are winnable, Vikings right now could possibly be winnable, Colts are possibly winnable, and the Broncos, that's 5. You add 5 onto the 3 wins, there's your 8 wins. But for
Mhm.
all that to go right, I just don't know. I mean, are those the 5 games you're probably circling?
I would say we're going to get beat by the Vikings. I think they're a lot better than the record shows.
Yeah,
They've been involved in a lot of close games. They have a positive point differential, actually.
yeah,
And then, but I think what you got to look at is the Chargers, because we always split with the Chargers, it seems like. There's never a sweep. And I mean, I don't think they're that much better of a team than us. I think we can beat them in Allegiant.
yeah. I mean, look, there you go. So you're showing me a path to 8 wins. I'm going to be, again, I love this whole story. I hope he's able to rally the troops. I'm seeing maybe a win against the Giants.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. It's a dogfight. The Jets are going to be a dogfight. The Dolphins, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to. You never know. You honestly never know. The Chiefs, you never know. Vikings with Josh Dobbs in there, maybe you got a shot. But again, they're tough. You just mentioned it. And Jefferson might be coming back by then. Jordan Addison's been looking good. TJ Hawkinson, it's just a lot.
Mhm.
Chargers, I
Well,
think
Nick,
it's on paper, but bad coach. Yes, Matt.
forget Nick. They lost Kirk Cousins to the full year. I mean, right
Yeah.
now, Jaron Hall starting this Sunday, and I think Joshua Dobbs will take over at one point. But it could go great for the Vikings, or without Kirk Cousins, they may be saying top 15 pick this coming year. I mean, there's no guarantee for them right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
you
I
never,
mean, all right, let's do final prediction here. Right now, they're at 3 wins. Count up. Matt, I give you time. I'm gonna stick with my gut here, and be again totally different circumstance. But I'm gonna probably say I think somehow we get to 5 wins. I'm gonna say 4-5 because it's tough. And honestly, if we only end up with 4 or 5 wins, I still like Champ Kelly. I really do. As a GM, I think he'll be
Mhm.
fine. Antonio Pierce, love the guy, but maybe we get another guy that can fire him up a little. Like Dan Campbell, just a different story. I don't think Antonio Pierce is like that, but he's a big Raiders guy. Been a Raiders fan his whole life. I would love to see him follow through. But Champ Kelly for sure, maybe go different at the head coaching spot. But I'm gonna say 4 to 5 wins. Matt, what are you feeling like?
I'm feeling their I'm feeling their peak is 7 to 10. And I'm glad you brought up real quick, side note, the Dan Campbell thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't a head coach before, but don't forget, he went to head coach university when he was assistant head coach under Sean Payton. And he
Yes.
also under, over with the Dolphins. He was and he also Bill Parcells guy. I mean, you can't forget those few guys, under that. But yeah, my peak's at 7 to 10.
7 to 10. But what would you say your true? If that's your peak, what's your true feeling? They end up with how many? It's tough. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now, and I'm thinking three. Definitely, they could win 3 games. And the one thing I'm circling right now is Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. So you're gonna say, I mean, if they're peak 6 wins, it's fair prediction.
Yes.
All right, Ian. Last one. Everyone's looking at you. What do you got?
I'm just still sticking with 8 wins. I think they'll rally behind Antonio Pierce. He can be a good leader of men. Maybe he's not Dan Campbell, but I think he's that type of coach. And I
Yeah.
think he's the Rich Bisaccia type of coach that isn't a mastermind on offense, but you don't really have to be. You have to have the locker room together. You have to motivate your guys, push them. And good leadership really can elevate a team. We saw it in 2021 with Rich Bisaccia. We won a lot of games that we had no business winning. Like, I didn't like Mike Mayock at all. I think he put together a roster that should not have gone 10-7 that year. But John Gruden was a pretty good head coach. Rich Bisaccia comes in. He was absolutely great. Regret not giving him the head coaching job, but hey, maybe he'll get it this year, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I imagine. I'll tell you right now, if Antonio Pierce is able to get to 8 wins, as much as disgusting as it may sound, because he's not that big fancy guy, he deserves a shot. He does. Mark Davis can't make the same mistake twice. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think he's
I'd much rather still be with Rich Bisaccia, and I know that you say you don't like Mayock, but I'd much rather have seen that stick and let them just continue to go another year. And I don't think we'd be in this situation right now, but we're not in a horrible situation. The Chandler Jones thing stinks. The money to Renfro right now, not using them stinks. Garoppolo's money not stinks. But man, Champ, if they can win 8 games, if you're right, they win 8 games. I think if you're Mark Davis, you got to do it. You got to give him another year. You got to give him another year.
I don't think it's very possible, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to give him a fair shot.
I think so too. Matt, what were you going to say?
So, don't forget too, Rich Bisaccia is a special teams coordinator, right? And when you're a special teams coordinator, you also meet with the whole team, right? Your team meetings with the whole team, the guys that are the third, fourth guys on the depth chart. A lot of players knew him on the team. Yeah, Antonio Pierce, I'm a big fan of his, not just because he was a former Giant, but his coaching career. He doesn't necessarily have that, yeah, again, I brought up the whole high school experience, but, he wasn't a head coach in college. He wasn't coaching the NFL. Unless he does get you to that 8 and 9, I don't see him getting that chance, unfortunately. He may get an interview, but I don't see maybe past one interview. But I think they would be stupid not to at least keep them on the coaching staff if they go in a different direction.
One final thing. I keep on saying one final thing, but this is going to be it. This is the last one before our Zoom call closes on us randomly. Throw out one name. One name that you think it may be next year. So I'll say one that you think it's going to be, and then one that you want. So Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot. So you first, and then we'll go to Ian, then we'll go to me. One that you want, one that you think. So start with think first. Do you think that it's going to be Antonio Pierce, or do you think they're going to go another way?
I think it's going to go another way, unfortunately. Who I would want. I'm still sticking to my guns.
Lou Anarumo.
I think it's going to be. I honestly, I don't know because, Mark Davis, he may surprise people.
Yeah.
So, I guess
throw a name out.
I'm gonna go with Ben Johnson.
All right, there you go. Ian, what do you got?
What I think what happened is Jim Harbaugh. I think Mark Davis can pry him away, especially with the scandal going on right now.
Yes.
Um, Obviously, Rich Bisaccia would be a really cool story, but the guy I want is not really getting the same, I guess, respect at this point. Is Jeff Ulbrich? You know what I mean? Like, you see that as Robert Sala's defense, but Jeff has a big hand in what's going on there, and I think it's just an intriguing opportunity, and maybe not a super flashy guy, but just a guy that can get the team on the right track. Maybe keep Sham Kelly as the general manager, whatever you want to do. Just get a couple of good guys in there, and just be able to take advantage of the talent you have.
Yeah. I see I'm in a tough situation too, because I think the same thing, right? Like think, Ben Johnson, but like Ian, you mentioned, I think he will probably stay in Detroit. I think.
Yeah.
Albright
Oh,
probably gonna stay with the Jets. What were you gonna say?
and by the way, I also think another option, if it's not Jim Harbaugh, if it's not the crazy story with like Antonio Pierce or Rich Bisaccia, I think Frank Smith is another like really likely option. I think he'll most definitely get an interview. And I mean, he has experience with the Raiders. He was the tight ends coach under John Gruden, 2018 to 2020, and now he's the offensive coordinator in Miami. And it's an offense run mostly by Mike McDaniel, but it's just a really explosive offense. So I
Yeah.
see the attraction there. I mean, I think maybe they've been shut down a couple games by defense they should have been able to put more points on. So
Yeah.
I'm a little iffy on Frank Smith, but I think he will definitely get some looks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to make this longer, Nick, and
Oh,
jump
you're
in.
good. You're good. You're good. Take it.
I mean, I totally agree. The only reason why I did not say Frank Smith is like I had the process of him thinking like this is like their first year of being a playoff, like more than a one and done playoff team. So I may think he may give it another year. The only reason why I said Ben Johnson was because they're at that point where maybe like weren't for him, he weren't for saying of how well they did last year, that jump that they made. I think he takes the Carolina job. The only reason why he didn't take the Carolina job is from that big growth that they had from the first to the second year.
Yeah.
Um, I agree with Ian. The whole Jim Harbaugh thing and the whole situation with the scandal. But honestly, I think from that scandal, it's NCAA may figure out a way to avoid him from running. I think he may get suspended. I don't know if necessarily terminated, but I think that I think no matter what Jim Harbaugh would do, I think that's just going to follow him. Like Bill Belichick, right? The whole sign stealing
Yeah.
is going to follow him the rest of his career.
Yeah,
And
right.
yeah,
It's really like it's a one of the worst things, one of the worst scandals you can get caught up in college at this point.
Yeah.
And it really taints his attraction in the NFL, in my opinion. And
yeah,
I'm not really all over him. I just think with that relationship between him and Mark Davis, he has roots with the Raiders. I think that's a very good possibility.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And the one thing I will mention too with I believe I read somewhere, I don't know if this is right or not, but it will follow him to the NFL. Whatever they declare, like if he gets suspended for 3 games in NCAA, it will follow over to the NFL if he does switch. So I believe that was something I did read. I'm not sure if that's right, but I think I did hear that. All right, last thing for me. I will say, I here's the one thing about Ben Johnson. This is why I'm going to say I think Ben Johnson. I think he wants a championship with the Lions, but how many times does the offensive coordinator overstay their due and then they regress and they never get a shot? If you get a shot and you like your situation, you take it. And the Raiders have a pretty good situation. Like, there's offensive weapons there right now. And if he has a shot to be a head coach, it would be tough for him not to take it right now. What I will
Yeah,
say is this. The last thing I will say, don't spit in my face. I want John Gruden back. Sorry, I want Chucky back. One more time. Third time's a charm. I just want to see him back on the
Now
sideline.
you're down in New Orleans.
Listen, okay? Mark Davis already owes him like $70 million. Just tell him, listen, I know I already gave you some money back. We'll write up a new deal. You can have your money and, finish out your contract. And You go there, choose his quarterback who he wants, and get us to the promised land. I mean, Deuce Gruden's already there, so hey, just bring back John and see what you got. And Ian, I know you don't like Wi-Fi Willie, but man, me and him are eye to eye. So, all right, that's all. Anything else from any of you? No,
I'm good.
All right.
No.
Stay tuned, Raiders fans. If you made it this far, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and listen. We do have the current state Raiders video coming up soon, so stay tuned for that, where we're going to discuss the current state of Las Vegas Raiders, which right now is hard to predict. We don't know what's going to happen, so maybe give it a week or two, and we can do a better prediction from there. But besides that, go follow Raiders.legends on Instagram. Great page. You're going to want to follow them. And again, check us out, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are Bill Betters.
180. 180, set.